All right, today's podcast is 10 minutes on a workout that you can do in about a minute that guarantees you get a different result in your life as long as you follow it. And the workout isn't with fitness, so I'm going to let you get into it now. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George show. And we're going to talk about stretching, but we're going to try something a little bit different today because I've talked about this concept, I've talked about this topic, but I found the most incredible YouTube short from a creator that I follow. His name's Vin, and it is linked below. And I'm going to keep this episode short to the point so you can go practice this on the field and make some momentum. And so I'm going to read the actual transcript of this clip and get right into the meat so we can talk about it. The clip is linked in the show notes. It's only 60 seconds. And this is one of those episodes where you're going to pick it up, you're going to choose it, and you're going to use it. So today's job is to pick it up, which you're doing right now. Hi, good to hear you or see you. Glad you picked up the phone. Choose it. Choose the thing that I'm going to talk about and then use it and go put it into practice. So let me read you the transcript of this video. Courage is a muscle that has to be trained, and you have to practice it. Sometimes people put themselves in positions where they're trying to lift a dumbbell that's 100 pounds, and that 100-pound dumbbell could be asking someone for their Instagram. You have to start by lifting 5-pound dumbbells. And what that potentially means is sometimes going into a restaurant and asking the waitress, hey, I'm feeling a little adventurous this evening. Could you just order my food for me? Is that okay? And you just don't know what is even going to come that allows you just to practice a little courage to do something where you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And then the next time, turn Google Maps off and you just try to get home from a new destination. You're practicing courage. It's small bits, it's small bites. Whereas people tend to think that, oh, I'm someone who's really scared. I need to go and jump out of a plane, or I need to burn the ships. Wrong. No, as you practice that muscle and you get really good at 5 pounds, then you'll be able to do 10 pounds, then you'll be able to do 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, and then you'll be able to ask for her Instagram. And so back in the days, dirty little secret days, when I was a personal development coach and a participant for a long time, stretching were things that we did all the time, except the stretching that they did to prove the point and the catalyst was really like jumping out of airplanes every day, like to the point where I stretched so hard that I'm so glad that I did, and I thank personal development for this, but I had the choice to go on my book tour or go to a course, a personal development course that I was enrolled in, that I'm speaking about right now, that would give me a chance to fix my marriage. And I'd signed a contract for my book tour, like full publisher. You guys remember this if you were back around 2014, but full publisher, full book tour, everything, agreed to it. And I was faced with a decision. I could either stay in this course or I could leave and go fulfill my book tour. And I thought that was the only option. And they stretched me. They said, get creative. And needless to say, broke the contract, didn't get sued, ended up saving my marriage and doing all of that. But that concept of stretching was introduced, and it gets extreme in the lens of if you spend your whole life waiting and waiting and waiting to get to a point where it just boils over, then sometimes it feels like you just have to jump out of a plane. But that's because it's a muscle that's atrophied and we haven't used it correctly in so long, and it's so subtle and it's so simple. But I posted something on Instagram this morning about change. And change is inevitable. Change is coming every single day, right? Like I've been on calls with entrepreneurs today, I think 7 or 8 different ones, and all of them had some semblance of the same struggle. They're trying to do business how they were a year ago, but something was missing, and they had changed, and even the model had changed, and what has been in has changed, and things change very, very rapidly. But that also means that we get to change, and we get to stretch, and we get to grow. And like we would never plant a garden vegetable and then see that it's not growing and then stop watering it and let it wilt and go down. But like our courage, our muscles, the things that we do to make ourselves stronger, to make ourselves better in business, to make ourselves better in life, these are called stretches. It's like working out for your life. It's like working out for your mindset, working out for your business. But it's really about choosing things that make us uncomfortable, to try to break our pattern, to try to find new ideas. Like, think about all the times where like your friends invited you somewhere, like, no, 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 like swore it was going to be a bad time. And then immediately you get there and it's great and it's fun. And you're like, oh my God, I want this to be a part of my life. Those are stretches. Those are the same behaviors and the same bites that we use anywhere in our life where we want to gain something. And so if you're trying to gain more courage or confidence in public speaking, as much as I'm like, yeah, go speak in front of 1,000 people, probably not a good idea. I'd probably recommend you drive by a hotel clerk or a coffee shop woman. So if you get too embarrassed, you can just floor the gas pedal and leave. You just go to a different one and do it again and do it again and do it again. And I get asked a lot by people, how are you so good on video? Like, how are you so good talking? And a lot of people think I'm an extrovert. But if you really, really genuinely come watch me in my life, you ask anybody on my team, you ask anybody of my friends, if you come into my home, you're come hang out with me, I'll be the guy sitting quiet in the corner. I'll be sitting there just wanting to be there and in. And what a lot of people don't realize is even the lens of my business. And when I started food blogging and I had the breakthrough and I went live on video for the first time, I don't know, 9 years ago, that was a stretch. And that was a stretch that I've kept every single day, mostly for 9-ish, 10-ish years. And that stretch has served me very, very well. But there was also a point where I sat there and I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. And eventually I chose to do that. And it led me down a completely different path. And so sometimes it's really hard in the moment to understand how that small bite of courage or of a new skill or a new habit that we take today can add up. But I can look back now at the moment when I came back and the algorithm had changed on social and they had released live video on Meerkat and then Periscope, and I hated both of those and I missed the train. And I was so resistant because I didn't know what to say. I was so nervous. Like, what am I going to go live about? And then Facebook released it. And I was like, now's the day. And so what I did is I just made a deal that I had to go live every day for a minimum of 5 minutes, just a minimum of 5 minutes. I did. And what a lot of people don't know, in my entire career, I've only ever had one viral video. One. And that viral video came because of the courage that day. Because about 7 months in of that first bite, 7 months later, I did a live and I ended up talking about my bulimia and my story, and it went viral. But now I look back, and since then I've done over 10,000 podcasts. I get to speak for a living. I literally love it. And I recognize that prior to that live video, I didn't really do it. I wasn't on video. I was making recipes. But when the internet broke and when the algorithm changed and nobody was clicking on recipes and nobody was getting them anymore, and I was like, let's try. And I can look back at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these now that are literally the reason I'm standing where I'm standing or sitting where I'm sitting and feeling how I'm feeling. But I also know in this moment, I'm stretching myself every day right now, uncomfortably. Different industries, different markets, different clients, coaching differently, relationships. And I still struggle to see it sometimes, but I have enough evidence now that I know that if I keep stretching, if I keep doing those hard things, if I just do it in bite by bite by bite, that consistency adds up over time and the momentum is insane as long as we're willing to stretch. And so stretching is just something that we choose to do that makes us uncomfortable, right? Like, I mean, I think about the event, or I think about times we've been in our event and we'll have 20 people jump up and start dancing, and then they'll literally invite 3 people. They're like, no, I don't want to. I don't dance. And they won't. But then a few of them will get enrolled in and they're like, oh my God, I swear I'd never do this, but it was so much fun. That's stretching. But you know what I call it? Living. I call it breathing. I call it experiencing things. I call it trying things. You remember when we were kids, how everything we tried was new and how we knew how to do nothing and how exciting it was? Those were stretches. But then we get adults and then we get into entrepreneurship and then we get into these checked boxes and this rigidity and we're like, oh, I can't. And then we atrophy and then we die and we wonder why we're unhappy. We got to play. We got to stretch. I stretched this weekend. We went and did cold exposure hikes, ice baths. I coached on questions I never asked for. I interviewed my favorite person on a podcast today, like a musician who helped save my life. Sat sang he's coming on the show. And I told him to his face that he saved my life. And I've never told anybody that when I came back from the jungle and didn't listen to content and I was suicidal, that when I started, there were only 2 songs that I put on. And it was the story of you and I Am from Satsang. And I listened to him every day for 2 years. Every time I wanted to pick up a pill, every time I wanted to do something bad, I listened to those songs on repeat over and over and over again. And my stretches back then of courage were small bites to choose to live. And on the podcast today, and I said, hey, there's something important I really need to tell you. And I told him straight from my heart, that's a stretch. But I also recognize that if I die tomorrow, I want to make sure that I lived. And for me, checking boxes isn't living. And every time I've checked a box, I've never loved the results. But every time I've stretched, I've bathed in the glory of the presence that come on the other side. And so today, this is your invitation to stretch. And fuck it, I'll give you one. If you've listened to this show for this long and you still have never DM'd me on Instagram, will you at least send me your favorite food? Or if you've ever wanted to ask me a question you're afraid, ask me. If there's a message you want to send to somebody because you think about them all the time, but you don't know how to send it, just send it and say, I think about you all the time and I felt like sending this message. Practice, 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 practice. When you're a kid and you're learning how to walk, if you stop the first time you fall, it doesn't matter, but your first step is also not 27 feet. It's like a half an inch fall. And then the more you do it, the better you get. And there you go. And so I love this video because if you do it with courage, you do it everywhere. But you can do it with skills, you can do it with knowledge, you can do it with mindset. You just got to choose to do it. And the beautiful thing about stretching is that when you stretch a rubber band, no matter what you do, it never goes back to the same size and it's always a little bit bigger. Well, guess what happens when you stretch? Same thing. Bigger muscles, bigger impact, bigger light, bigger skills, bigger heart, bigger evidence bucket, bigger everything that you need, as long as you're willing to do a little bit of stretching. So that's what I got today. I appreciate you. I love you all to pieces. I don't even know if I have a call to action on this, except to do that thing that's in your thoughts right now that you're like, how did he know I've been putting that off? I'd pick up that call because the only way to know is to swing the bat, and the only way to get to what's on the other side is try. So have a beautiful day. I love you all. I'll see you in the Alliance if you're in the Alliance, and if you're not, I'm just going to leave that there. You deal with that. But on that, we'll see you in the next episode. You'll hear me in your earballs. But either way, we're out.